Gut, ich habe es geschafft. Normalerweise unterrichte ich im Ausland und das heißt auch alle meine Materialien sind auf Englisch. Deswegen habe ich vor ein paar Jahren hier auch angefangen, also obwohl dieser Kurs ein Bachelor-Kurs ist, ihn in Englisch zu unterrichten, da es immer so aussah, als ob die Studenten ohnehin schon besser Englisch können als die Kollegen. This is why I have a little list to explain you this decision. So you will later need to be nearly fluent in English in your work anyway. Then all the material is in English, and when you study some things in this class, I also want you to start studying the English literature before you look at the German literature, because especially if you look at Wikipedia, let's say usually the German Wikipedia entry is pretty faulty, but the English Wikipedia entry is pretty good. But we will have plenty of examples in this class where you can compare that. It's kind of even funny to some extent to compare this. So if you would make me talk German, it would be Dinglish anyway. And so we will have some actually international people who will check in with us on a regular basis. One of them is actually physically here. So I would like to introduce you to Houston, who is my friend and PhD advisee from Brazil. And we managed to get a scholarship to get him to lovely Hagenberg, so he can really concentrate on what he's doing, and his work is very related to what we're doing here in the class. So I think at one point he will share a little bit what he's doing, but he will probably also use some of the time that you study and work with devices to study himself. So you will probably see him around. And it's anyway very chic to speak English, so that's also. So I think the only argument against this, because I will allow you to address me in German, I will allow you to do every stuff you do in German, you will allow you to ask questions in German, but I often will probably reply in English, and if you have trouble and I speak too fast, because yeah, I have American citizenship, so I think my English is pretty well developed. So then don't be afraid to stop me and say, hey, can you repeat that, or can you say it in German? So I will try to hear it. But I want to establish here that my main material will be in English, and if that is too much for you, just come and say, hey, can you do that part again in German, so that that works out. But usually I know you guys are much better than the average of the teaching people here, so I think you will be the smaller problem in this whole environment. And that's this really important point. In the English environment, we don't have that Z stuff. Yeah. So if you teach at the US university, you address your professor with their first name. That's probably not so hard for you. So I might make sometimes the mistake and address you with your first name. So I hope you are okay with this. You can just call me Uli, Ulrich, Ulno, any of my nicknames, and I think I should react to it. If you call me Professor Norbesrath, I might be kind of getting scared. So please just address me with my first name. I will try to learn yours and also try to address you with your first names. If you don't like that, let me know and I will try to address you in the formal way. But in an English-speaking environment, that is very untypical to talk in the formal way. Especially let's translate. There's just one you, you know, the thou has been retired at one point. Okay, so now you know already a little bit that this guy is a little on the crazy side, who's kind of teaching here for you today. So let's tell you a little bit more about myself. Or if you are curious, you can just go to my website. I'm trying to keep a little bit of a blog, I have a YouTube page, so please feel free to spy on me. This is my page, this is ulno.net, where some people have started saying youwillknow.net, because I'm a teacher, so you will know everything about Internet of Things after this class, so and because Ulno taught you. I have been a full professor here at the university a couple of years ago, but because of my very nomadic lifestyle, I had to retire as a professor, And then they asked me, hey, can you not continue teaching the classes you have designed here? And I said, yeah, if you find me in, then that would be nice. So this is why I come twice a year for a very short period. And yeah, hope you have the pleasure to enjoy what I will share with you. I've also worked as an adjunct professor at American University, but currently I'm in Brazil. We have a collaboration with this university and a university in Brazil, with Untitled in São Paulo. And it happens to be the case that Houston is one of the students and professors of Untitled. And I met him one of the first times I taught actually this class here as an exchange committee. And so we stayed in touch since then, and yeah, things came to each other. An interesting thing I should mention from last time is also that one of the students of the Internet of Things class, we managed to send on an internship to São Paulo. So if there's one of you who's interested in doing the internship thing, the practicum, in a kind of exciting environment, there is some precedence to make that work. So if you are, there was a little salary for actually staying there, but the student had to pay their own flight to get actually to Brazil, but I think there were no additional costs in terms of having an apartment and getting a little something to get around. It's not so expensive to live in Brazil. Now, São Paulo is kind of, but there's really good food there, so, and coffee. So, if you look at my PhD thesis, I have been doing this Internet of Things stuff actually since I started working at the university. Just we didn't know at that time that it would be called Internet of Things. At one point, we called it home automation. So, or e-homes. Well, I have an e-home, what was it called at this time. So I did already home automation or Internet of Things in my PhD thesis. I had already the same problems in my PhD thesis than we had today, but the nice thing today is today more people are interested in it than when I did my PhD. So it's a bit more relevant. I teach, apart from this class, I teach also the home and building automation in the master's program here. So that usually 1.5 year I teach in the master's program for mobile computing, and in the other one I teach the bachelor class here. I do a lot of teaching in software engineering. You will actually suffer a little bit through that in this class, because one of my favorite software engineering research area is called story-driven modeling. So there will be a lot of stuff going on about stories and requirements engineering here in this class, which I hope you will enjoy. Houston has also already suffered under these views. And I do a lot of systems teaching in general. So I've taught here also the operating system class, the software architecture class. So if there's anything with Linux and kind of making network systems work together, it was usually me who worked with this stuff. So if you are interested in that, you can easily draw me into that direction. Yeah, and I have taught all over the world. There's also a reason why I prefer to teach in English, because I can use that one language everywhere. I've taught in the US, taught in Germany, Austria, in Estonia, in Kazakhstan, in Singapore, in Indonesia, and currently in Brazil. So, and I'm already lecturing again. I want to try to keep lecturing to a minimum. I will talk a little bit about that too, but I think it's time that you do something. And so I told you about me. I want you to kind of reflect a little bit on what you are doing, more in regard that you want to present that to a potential teammate here than actually presenting it to me. So that should be more a help, like when we build the teams later, that you can say, hey, that's me, that's why I'm cool, that's why you want me to have you in the team. So please write down for yourself. And there will be a little thing, so every lecture, there will be a chance to submit something. So there will be some very cheap points you can gather in this class with these mini exercises we do in the lecture. There's not much correction. It's nearly impossible to fail these if you submit them. And these are kind of in this style. Yeah, so you write some small things which have to show up later in your portfolio. So one of the main grading things here is the portfolio, and yeah, this leads to that. But I will talk a little bit more about that. So first, I want you to answer these questions. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody of you has done some programming here, because not you wouldn't be in that program else. So write down what kind of 3 or 4 favorite languages you have been exposed to are. Yeah, a little bit what you have done with microcontrollers. Some of you have in school already done stuff. I don't know how the program has developed here in the meantime. Maybe there is some Arduino introduction class or so. I don't know. Then, yeah, maybe one of you has already worked with the Raspberry Pi on their own. I think it gets to be a very popular hobby project nowadays. So some of you, can I kind of just see who has worked with the Raspberry Pi before? Great. Anybody knows the Labrador? Houston?
Yes.
You know, the Labrador is the Raspberry Pi from Brazil. Yeah. And who is a maker? Anybody considers themselves to be part of a maker community? 3D printing, crafting stuff, sewing. Yeah. Who can sew? Cool. Cool. Machine or hand?
Hand.
Yeah, cool. Now I just got a sewing machine, so, and for Internet of Things, so it's related. I will explain you why. And okay, write a little bit down what you have already read about IoT. What is your idea? And then comes the one thing which is interesting for me. What are your expectations of this class? Yeah. 5 minutes. Write it either on the computer or write it on a piece of paper and take a picture of it later. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's finish this up. If you want, you can refine that still until you really put it into the portfolio. But again, take it more like a help for building the team building things and kind of assessing what are the points you really want to learn and what are the points you have to offer when you do projects. So, part through the introduction, then comes another big thing, which is the syllabus. So, as an American professor, the most important thing for the class is always the syllabus. And so we will look at that syllabus a little later. And then we will do kind of the first real lecture thing where we kind of figure out what do we want to understand when we talk about the Internet of Things. Then I will quickly talk about what we will do in the lab today. And if then there's still time, I will start presenting the toys. I think I will end all the lectures with showing you new parts you can use in the labs. Good. Okay, that's me. You know how to connect to me. And so this is a document work in progress, because I ordered quite a lot of new hardware, and depending on what has arrived for you here in class, I have to change some things. So don't read too much in the program of this syllabus, because that might change during the class. It depends on how fast you are, it depends on how much hardware we have, so there might be still some changes. But in the general structure, in my lecture, you can get 100 points. Yeah, and because that's what you're interested in, how can I pass? So 10 of these points are the so-called lecture records. So even if you miss a lecture, I'm trying to record all lectures, and then you can watch them on YouTube again should you miss it, or kind of fast forward it if you fell asleep in here, then you can watch them there again. And yeah, just make these mini exercises I have in there. Just need to be keywords, nothing fancy. It's just that your brain has been with the topic we were actually doing in class. So I just want that what I do in the lecture is not for nothing. Then, so this is 10 very cheap points. Everybody of you should be able to get them very easily, even if you miss some classes. So you get basically 1 per class. We have 12 classes total. So if you miss 2 classes, you still get 10 points very easily. Yeah? And 10 is max. So if you do 12 submissions, you will still only get 10 points. So the biggest thing is a portfolio. Who of you has done in school or other university classes portfolios before?
So portfolios are used a lot in the arts, and maybe if you were in school, you had kind of a little kind of log about your activities you've been doing. And that's kind of one of my main things where I want to see that what you as an individual have been doing. And I don't like to punish people for making mistakes. I actually want to encourage people to make mistakes. And so if you do things with computers, there's so much what can go wrong, especially if you use hardware. And I think that's a really important experience. And so please, when you do things here for me, also write down these kind of weird ways you go that don't lead anywhere, because these can be captured well in a project log or in a portfolio. So I want to read about these things, and you get points for exploration in the portfolio. Yeah, so if you make mistakes, be proud, because that's exactly what you want to do. So we will check that, don't worry. You will learn how to do a portfolio, because I come in the labs, come around and look at your notes, and I will give you hints. So no grading until the end of this portfolio. But this is the main piece. It's like the exam in the end is your portfolio. Everything you do, you want to write down. You want to even link in the portfolio to these mini exercises we are just doing here in class. If you do everything I tell you to do, you get a 2, you get a B. So to get a 1 in my class, you have to do more than I ask you to do. Sounds difficult? It's not. So I call this the transcending activities. So for me, the social things, that if you help others, if you find some cool documentation for solving something and share that with others, these are all things I want to credit to you in this extra activity. Or if you automate your garage at home with IoT and think that it's a cool project which is related, then you have to mention that in your portfolio, and then you get extra credit for it. Yeah. So social things, extra projects, funny stories you find in the net, yeah, please mark them all. These are potential for these extra points. Yeah, or if you find a bug in my code and to fix it, that's really good way to get extra points, yeah? And then there will be two course projects, which give the rest of 30 points. So there's one smaller project which is defined, which gives 10 points, and one big project you will define yourself, which gives 20 points. So, good. Doesn't sound, yeah, sounds easy, but it's not that easy as it sounds. Yeah, I think all of you have seen Linux before, so that's all fine. Check the outline once in a while. It's very similar to what I've done last time, but there will be some changes, but roughly that is how we will actually proceed in class. So today we will actually set up our own network. We get our Hello World things done so that we can finally switch on an LED and then remote control this LED. If we manage that stuff today, we are totally great in time. Anything else here? The projects are mentioned below, and there's some things, if you are interested about other literature, which can get you started if you scroll down. So, there are 2 projects. One is the liquid measuring challenge. You will actually build Internet of Things for a sailboat in that first challenge. And the second challenge will be a project you pick yourself. So let's continue with the slides. Oh yeah. Read the running objectives yourself. Good. There is, later on in the class, we will use the software I maintain myself, which is called IoT Empower. And IoT Empower has 2 connected public chat groups with it. So of course, you might want to set up some kind of Discord or anything what your favorite chat platform is. I don't know if you have that already. If not, maybe use the Matrix chat room. If you have something favorite, set it up and invite me to it. I think I'm in all chat platforms that are out there. The only thing I don't want you to use is Slack. if you wondering why, look at my blog. I have a really horrible article on my experience with Slack. So you can use anything but Slack, yeah? You can also use Moodle, so fine, but just not Slack. It's the third year for you, is it? Yeah, so you know each other. Yeah, so you might like some people. So what I want you to do is at least find a partner. Yeah, so we start working in pairs of 2, but maybe roughly collocate yourself already with 4 or 6 persons in total. Yeah, because the last project will be done with more persons, but usually you will work in pairs. I don't have more hardware, so you will get all the set of hardware in a pair. But sometimes there will be hardware you have to share between 4 persons. So do we need extra time for that? Or are you already sitting next to people you kind of can work with? Yeah? Let's hope. If that is a problem, talk with me and I will try to find your match. But later in the lab, you need 1 person. In these pairs, you need at least 1 Git repository. Everybody knows what Git is, yeah? And you can use Git. Ah, it's so nice. 6 years ago, that was a disaster. Nowadays, good. You need 1 Git repository. In this Git repository, or this Git repository will basically be this kind of weird portfolio thing I told you about, yeah? So all our documentation, we do code style. We write Markdown, yeah? Or if you really want to do, write restructured text. So 1 Markdown dialect of your choice, you write that in the Git repository. You don't need 1 super big document. You just need a table of content, yeah? So if I want to read the portfolio of you, then there is in the main document is a link to the 2 persons who belong to this repository, and I click on that, and then I get all the material which belongs to the portfolio of that person. That can be 1,000 documents, that can be 1 long document. But so just use the power of the hyperlink in your portfolio, use Markdown and kind of write it in there. Yeah, so how you, the same way you would do code documentation. Yeah, we're writing our portfolio as documentation of code. Keep in mind that at the end of the class you might have to merge your Git repository with another Git repository. So do some meaningful folders so that there are no clashes later when you merge. Yeah, so you might, for example, you might have a documentation folder. Under this documentation folder, team members, and then the team members. And then maybe that makes it easy later to merge. Don't make just portfolio 1, portfolio 2, because that will create clashes. Okay. I will make you 1 submission thing on Moodle, and I want your portfolio in that submission thing. And then everything else we will submit will be in the Git repository. Our deadlines are relatively soft in this class. So I just want to see in the history of the Git repository later that, yeah, you have done it at some specific time, so I can see that everything is there. So, in contrast to what I've done until this point, I actually don't like to lecture. I don't think that lecturing is a good thing for pedagogy. And has anybody seen that thing? There's some theory about that, which actually tells that lecturing is not a good thing to do. If not, and if you ever want to do something with education, Bloom's Taxonomy is a really old artifact which is used in pedagogy. And you see down here, remember and understanding. And so this is at the bottom of what we want to achieve as a teacher with the students or in a learning environment. Yeah, we want you to remember what we do with you guys and even better understand what we do with you. But still, that is by far not what an education environment should provide. Because what we want you actually to do, because you will forget what you remember and you understand, you will forget at one point. But what you won't forget is how you use this stuff.
Yeah, so if you manage to set up Internet of Things system here in class, you will be able to set up an Internet of Things systems with bus system, with technologies we have never discussed here in class, just because you have done it. So that's why the application stuff is so important. So I want you to apply things. But I want you to analyze and evaluate what you are doing, so I want you to reflect here on yourself. So when we do the portfolios, I expect you to go back to what you write now down in class and in the lab and reflect on it. Reflect has to do with critical thinking. Yeah, I want you to create things I don't even envision. Yeah, I want you to criticize me. Yeah, so I want you to go back to the lecture and to your notes you did and say, oh, that was crazy what that guy did today. Or, hey, I like that. And that really helped me to understand the topic better. Yeah, so these kind of comments, that is what I want. So because I know that stuff. You don't have to explain to me what the Internet of Things is. You have to explain it to yourself. Yeah, so you have to write down some notes for yourself. But I'm more interested in motivating you to reflect on what you're doing. Or to say, okay, the maker community stuff, that was kind of funny for me. So why was Mr. Nobelsrad kind of talking about making all the time? What does it have to do with Internet of Things? So if there's something striking, so then that is interesting for these parts up there. Yeah, you need to analyze and you need to evaluate what you're doing. And the best thing is what I can create is I can stifle your creativity, and there you already see what the connection to the making stuff is. Yeah. So I want you to become creative. I want you to do things I don't even envision. And that's why my lecture will hopefully pretty soon start looking very different of what you are used to. So my teaching method is related to this concept of the flipped classroom. Yeah, so I want you to control what is going on. I'm not there yet completely, but this is also why the structure is not firm. So there will be things where if you look at the syllabus now, where we kind of move things around. So if there's something where you get the feeling I forget, yeah, so that there's something you really would like to do, but I haven't put into the syllabus, let me know, because we might be able to put it in there, or it might make space for you in there. Because I'm much more excited if you want to do something specific than if I planned out everything for you. But we might not have the hardware, so yeah, we have to kind of find that in a dialogue and see what is actually possible. Maybe Houston wants to work with the Labrador, so there could be a side project because he's not really part of our class where that happens. Houston's work has actually to do with virtual reality and Internet of Things, so you might see him sitting there with an Oculus Quest and lots of sensors, and maybe you are interested in actually what he is doing, and I will not prevent you from giving input to what he is doing, or him giving you some little tasks which are relevant in this class environment. So, that's already a pretty old slide, but you can kind of a little bit see how the Google trends of IoT have developed, yeah? So, definitely IoT is important, it comes more and more, and so it makes sense that we look at it. I have started, so I did kind of, 2006 I finished my PhD thesis, and after that I didn't do anything with IoT. So I then did distributed networks. And basically when I went to Indonesia, that stuff kind of, was it 2013? It really kind of came back into my scope of doing things with that. And yeah, and then it skyrocketed, and I did kind of 3-4 classes. I do tons of workshops in IoT now, so yeah, it's there, at least from my experience. So, enough talking on my end, so next mini exercise for you. So instead of me telling you what the Internet of Things is, you will tell me, but don't worry, there is a summary slide and we discuss this together. But I want you to do a quick Google search if you don't have it in your brain, or just search your brain. So what does the Internet of Things entail? So what is
connected with the Internet of Things for you in the news, in the media you follow, for you personally. So what does the Internet of Things stand for? So for figuring that out, I want you to Google IoT, or Internet of Things, and I want you to come up with a small description, but more important for me is come up with some examples. Yeah, so have a small description, but really pay attention to the domains. Yeah, where is Internet of Things used? For example, home automation. Yeah, but better find some other things than home automation. Now, there are tons of domains where the Internet of Things plays a role. So at least 3 domains. You might stumble upon some protocols used in the Internet of Things. So I also want you to write down these. And yeah, write also down 2 typical devices you see being used in the Google search you are doing. You have 10 minutes for this, and then you start working with your neighbor to make a merge list of that. Again, this goes later into the lecture report as a part of the portfolio. And how long is the lecture today? How much time do we have left? 10:30, yeah? 10:25, good. Ah, good. Well, we are good in time. If you don't have a device to write things down, just take a piece of paper and later take a picture and yeah. So the only binary I allow to check into your portfolio is actually pictures, yeah? So that's why a picture can also be part of your repository later. So if you don't have a computer, feel free just to take a picture later of something handwritten. There's no shame in that. Okay, so please start rounding up. So while I was shopping, while I was going around shopping, I learned that some of you are not very concrete when you give. When I ask you for examples for devices, I want real devices like my Pebble smartwatch or my Runtastic fitness tracker version. I don't know them all, but yeah. So or the smart bulbs of the Philips Hue system or something like that. Yeah. So a bit more than just the technology. Okay, let's kind of get some things together. No, not yet. You get a movie from me first. And now we get another technical problem, I assume, but let's see. Let's see what we can do. So M2M is machine to machine. So let's go back to the lecture. So how to encourage kind of continue watching it, but I think you should have tons of benefits and challenges already added to that. So let's kind of discuss a little bit. Good. So let's see. There was actually ubiquitous computing mentioned in this movie. Who found ubiquitous computing as their domain? Anybody wrote down ubiquitous computing? The computing which is in the background kind of fades away. That was the vision from my time when I did my research. So the Mark Weiser vision. So that's one. So like you all heard about cloud computing, yeah? So cloud computing is a little bit, it's the same to a lot of different domains as IoT is to lots of different domains. Yeah. So in my times we talked about grid computing, supercomputing, virtualization, and that all kind of is now, and also, business to business, platform as a service, and all these things. If we're all different disciplines and now kind of unified in cloud computing. The same thing is happening here in Internet of Things. And if all these different domains with cross-cutting concerns, which are now unified in one thing, you take a little bit of one discipline to it, one other discipline to it, you get connectivity, you get data, and then it starts making a new field.
Okay, who has selected home automation in there? Okay, a couple of people who have selected urban computing and smart cities in their domains. Yeah, I saw it when I was shopping. Who has embedded computing or is on actor sensor networks? It's kind of on the same level. Embedded, nobody did embedded. Actor sensor networks, explicitly, no. Machine to machine, anybody wrote that down in advance? Who did mobile computing or wearable computing? Good students. Anybody did the making stuff or hacking? What about security, privacy? Good, see, it's not even written there. I don't know, I think they said it in the movie. So big and actionable data. That's what you mentioned data, yeah? Or data, artificial intelligence, anybody? Yeah, but data is a super important point. So for me, if you want to take one thing from today, you should take, if we talk about Internet of Things, we don't talk about the single devices, we talk about systems. Yeah? They all say, okay, we add value via combining, via networking these devices. So usually when I teach Arduino, yeah, I talk about the devices, I talk about single sensors. But as we are teaching Internet of Things here, I will teach you how to combine all these devices to get a system. Yeah, so the interesting stuff comes from having the network and bringing these devices together. So you want to take systems, the connectivity, and data. So what did I forget? So bring now some of your domains I didn't put on here. You guys have more, yeah?
Smart farming.
Smart farming, agriculture. I don't have agriculture on that. That's an old slide. Yeah, very good. It's a very important topic.
Industrial automation.
Industrial automation, industry 4.0, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of related to what you do, Houston, isn't it?
Automotive driving.
Yeah, self-driving cars. Anything else? Energy I saw, I think, with some people. What else? Logistics. This is actually its initial area where it comes from. This is where the historically the term from Internet of Things comes from, is from logistics. I continue with you. What devices did you write down when you talked about logistics?
Cameras, especially because I have Amazon stores.
You have the vision of the warehouse with all the robots running around, and so robotics is actually not a subfield, but a very related subfield.
And especially the warehouse, the store on Amazon.
The logistics behind and kind of all.
There's
Amazon Go.
The physical one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? And other people from the logistics area, have you found some typical devices used in the Internet of Logistics? How does that work? So we have cameras which can kind of track the substances and products and stuff. How do you track the products? What else do you need? Scales. You need kind of what? Yeah.
smart vending machines.
You need kind of some distributing machines where they can kind of push out. It doesn't need you need to be to the end customer. It can might be just mailboxes or so where you can program. I want now 10 of these books or so, and then they come through. Or if it's in logistics with food, there's a lot you can do. Anything else? There's some people who are actually doing stuff with the voice assistants. The voice assistant might actually come to play a big place also in logistics, that you can just request some things per voice in a factory, and then you get them, and you can bring it to a different point. Other devices, distance sensors, lasers. Yeah, so I need a little bit more like kind of these really single devices, because these are the things I want you to work with later. You want to build your own warehouse here in this class, or some of you hopefully. Yeah, so think a little bit in these lines, because I want you to get you on Thursday, I want to get you all into the story mode. I want you to start thinking about the projects you want to actually realize. We don't have super much hardware, but with some imagination, we can already achieve a lot here in the class. So I hope we will have, in the end, some really cool, interesting projects of using stuff. So, if I'm good in time, yeah, let's talk very quickly about what you will do this afternoon, and then you can kind of close your laptops and come forward, and I will kind of explain a little bit of the hardware we actually have to play with later. But let's first look at what we will do this afternoon. So, one of my major challenges for teaching Internet of Things was connectivity. As you have seen, it's one of the big points. How can we make all the devices talk with each other? You might have experienced in the time studying here that connectivity is sometimes an issue in Hagenberg. And the problem is that I need kind of a small network for each team here. So we will be, I think you are 33 persons, so we will have at least 16 teams working here, so we need 16 networks. When I go to IT here and say I want 16 networks, they kind of kick me out. So I found a really great solution, I think, because the Raspberry Pi, starting from version 3, has a really cool feature. You can turn the Raspberry Pi version 3 into a Wi-Fi router. Because the antenna, the local antenna of the Raspberry Pi, it comes with a built-in antenna. The Raspberry Pi version 3 is the first Raspberry Pi which comes with a built-in Wi-Fi antenna. And the cool thing is it has an open driver which can not only make it work as an access point, but also as a Wi-Fi client, but also as an access point. So in this way, you will be able to run your own Wi-Fi network for doing all the tests. So this is why the first thing you have to do is actually something pretty complex. The first thing you will have to do is install the gateway I've prepared for you. So I hope some of you have downloaded the image. If not, start doing that. You need I have a USB stick with the image. We can share the image in class, so it should work out. But after half an hour in class in the lab, all of you should have an image, or at least burn an image, so that you can run the Raspberry Pi as a gateway. The labs have Ethernet connectors to connect the Raspberry Pi to the Ethernet. You basically have your own nice Wi-Fi network, Wi-Fi router. The cool thing is I could have given you all routers, but a router is not enough for what we will do, because we want to do machine-to-machine communication, and we need a bit more for machine-to-machine communication than just a simple router. That's why the Raspberry Pi will solve so many problems for us here in this class, not only as a client and Internet of Things device, but also as a so-called edge device. But we will learn next time what the edge is. Yeah? The next time we will learn what the far, the edge, and the cloud is, because these are important terms for the Internet of Things. So then today you want to have your first success. So that means you have to do the hello world of the Internet of Things. Can you imagine what the hello world of the Internet of Things is?
A blinking bell.
Yes, but remote controlled. Yeah. So the hello world of the just thing, of kind of the electronic thing in Arduino, is a blinking light. But of course, you have to now interact with the blinking light to have the Internet of Things. So it's nearly that. So, but this is really the first step, is just blink the light. The second step is have a button which is remotely controlling that blinking light. And exactly that is what you want to do today in the lab. So it sounds like nothing, but I'm pretty sure we will all need kind of 2.5 hours to get there. Kind of, don't worry, I help you. Some of you will be faster. Don't worry, I have work for them too. But so first you want to set up the gateway. You want to be able to use your computer and your phone to log in via Wi-Fi into that. If that works, you can kind of continue in building the other things. If you haven't downloaded yet, also download the Arduino IDE for your respective computer. Yeah. So if a Mac version and so on. So we need the Arduino IDE too. Yeah. So hopefully you will prepare 2 devices today, and that you can control from one device the other. If this works, you have done the part. Very important. work together and document everything. And also document all the things that go wrong. That doesn't need to be prose, yeah, because I have to read that at one point. So please, just keywords, just very rough sketch what you do. Tons of bullet points. I'm fine. I can read PowerPoint. You can read PowerPoint bullet point style when you write things down. Take some pictures while you work, yeah, because that gives me the legitimacy. And again, so of course you work in pairs, so you mainly have just one document. So now you ask, how can I put that into the portfolio? Because the portfolio is individual. Yeah, so yeah, no, fine, have one document, and then you link from your portfolio, the two of you in there, but you want to do a reflection. So sometime tonight, you want to take 10 minutes where you look at that stuff, what you have done today again, and give an opinion on that. And say, well, what I liked from today was really that stuff. I was very frustrated kind of with that I really didn't get that working at that point, so I spent some extra time doing that. So this needs to be personal. Don't worry, just do it like you think you want to do it today. I will take a look in one of the next sessions and say, okay, I need more like that, or never point you in the right direction of doing it. But really take some 10 minutes after the lab, until we see the next time, to write a personal reflection on what you have done. This is a trick from my end, because you will far be less likely to forget what you have done, because you just look at it again. Again, you don't need much time. Just kind of bringing your brain and kind of looking at what you've done will trigger all these things again, and will make it much more harder to forget. And then I also want to stifle that you want to think about something new, something which is personal for you, or something you don't want to forget. And say, maybe I need to talk with Professor Nobiswad about that, because when I was reading that, I had that idea. Yeah? This is all critical. This is all the high level in the pyramid, and that's what I want to achieve. So, we have 5 minutes left. Please close all your stuff, come here in front, and I will show you some of the hardware you will work with, so that you all have an idea what is going on later. I don't know how best, but so you will get it. Most of you will probably know a lot of this stuff already. So that's a Raspberry Pi. You will get something like that, maybe with a different case, yeah? The Raspberry Pi kind of mainly consists of the Raspberry Pi and an SD card, yeah? Everybody of you knows what an SD card is, but this thing is what you want to flash today, yeah? So you need a program which is called Etcher. So download Etcher. If you don't run Linux yourself, if you already run Linux yourself, you will have other means of flashing that. But if you run Mac OS or Windows, I highly suggest use Etcher. With Etcher, you can flash that device. Then you plug this device in here, you power it up, and you should see it then on the Wi-Fi. However, as we are kind of advanced students here, I will show you the cards. So even better, before you power it up, put the card in your computer. And yeah, you can see me here. Take a look. There are two partitions on the Raspberry Pi always, kind of a configuration partition and a system partition. And the configuration partition, the boot partition, you can open on every operating system. So in there, you find a Wi-Fi.txt, yeah? And in the Wi-Fi.txt, you want to remove this. You want to remove this thing, and here write, I don't know, IoT Empire, my group or so. This is the SSID of your router, and here you want to write my password or so. Then you save that on this device. So I don't save it, but you have to save it. Then you kick it out of your system, and if you're done, put it in here. You will get this SSID to actually have your own Wi-Fi network with your password, and you need to share that with your partner. So that's an important step you have to do. If you don't do that, it gets a generic name.
which is okay if nobody else is around, because then you know that is your device. But if you have lots of students, that can kind of get pretty chaotic, and you start configuring devices of other students, which is fun, but kind of takes a lot of time. So it's a great thing to put into the portfolio when you mess that up, but yeah, you have to see yourself if you want to mess it up. So everybody, if you also get this kind of great blue box here. So, and I will at least show you a couple of things in there. And everybody, if you get some devices that look like this, yeah? You see these? This is the so-called ESP8266, the little chip which is on there. So Amazon bought 1 billion of these kind of 5 years ago and built the Amazon Dash button out of it. This is a $1 computer with Wi-Fi. Yeah? So the whole development board costs €2 if you order it here. If you just order the chip in between, I think it costs 70 euro cents. So if you want to make your own IoT company later, you have to budget kind of 50 to 70 cents per device you are actually producing for doing that. So you get a couple of these. It has an onboard LED, so the only thing you have to find is a button, and the button comes actually in that box. So let's see if we can show some the default things which are here in the box. So it's a Raspberry Pi box. This you don't need. Yeah. So there are some parts in there you can just ignore. Like maybe at one point we can use the infrared remote, but not in the beginning. So there's some cool stuff in here. This is a rain sensor. Yeah. If you want to measure how much water comes down, it's kind of a good thing at the moment. This is a distance sensor. You have probably seen in Arduino projects. Then there you see things with this little silver stuff on top. See this? These are usually gas sensors. We have a couple of alcohol sensors, and somehow they're very popular usually in this project. I don't know why. Yeah, here's another one. So you always might have to Google, but so all these are so-called gas sensors, yeah? So there might be carbon monoxide, there might be some kind of air quality sensors, but you will find a couple of these. But where can I show you the really default thing? Okay, this is an interesting one you want to use pretty early on. Here, wait. I don't know if anybody sees something. It has blue and has a little grid on there. Anybody knows what that is? Humidity and temperature, exactly. It's a DHT11. It's a one-wire sensor. And where do we have other toys? I find also this here. This is actually very popular if you do Arduinos, but I think we will not really use it. It might be, just for ideas. The joystick, it can kind of give you positions in 2 dimensions. We don't have much time, so just 2 more devices and then, yeah, this one might be one you want to use today. It is a really cool button. There's no button on there. It's a capacitive button, yeah? So you can actually touch it. So it's actually written on there. So if this is one of the buttons you want to search for today, it's the touch button. You can use that one. But there should be a normal button in there too. Hopefully I can really quickly show you. And then we continue that game next time. I want to show you one button. Here. That's maybe really the button you want to use today. So this is how a normal little push button looks like. Yeah? So I need some volunteers to go with me and kind of collect some hardware. Yeah?